Was it an accident or something more sinister? These brilliant minds changed the world with their discoveries, but their deaths left us with more questions than answers. Number 6. Alan Turing, the codebreaker's mysterious end. Have you ever wondered what happens when one of the greatest mathematical minds of all time suddenly dies at the peak of their career? Alan Turing, the father of modern computing and the genius who cracked the Nazi Enigma code during World War II, was found dead in his bed on June 7, 1954. He was only 41 years old, the official cause, cyanide poisoning. A half-eaten apple was found beside his bed, though it was never tested for poison. The authorities quickly ruled his death a suicide, saying he had deliberately laced the apple with cyanide and taken a bite. But here's where things get weird. Turing had been forced to undergo chemical castration as punishment for being gay, which was criminalized in Britain at that time. He had been stripped of his security clearance and publicly humiliated. Yet friends reported he had been in good spirits in his final days. He had even left notes about experiments he planned to run the next day on his desk. Some conspiracy theories suggest that Turing was eliminated because he knew too much about British intelligence operations. Others point to his groundbreaking work in artificial intelligence as something that might have scared powerful people. His mother always insisted his death was actually an accident, resulting from careless storage of chemicals for his home experiments. In 2009, then British Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued a posthumous apology for Turing's treatment. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted him a royal pardon. But we may never know what really happened that night in June 1954. Number 5. Galileo Galilei, slow death under house arrest. Did the Catholic Church silence one of history's greatest astronomers? Galileo Galilei revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos by supporting the Copernican theory that Earth revolves around the Sun, not the other way around. This put him directly at odds with the Catholic Church, which maintained that Earth was the fixed center of the universe. In 1633, the Inquisition forced the 70-year-old scientist to recant his findings and sentenced him to house arrest for the remainder of his life. By 1638, Galileo had gone completely blind, possibly from gazing at the sun through his telescope. In declining health and still under house arrest, he died on January 8, 1642, at age 77. The official record states he died of fever and heart palpitations. But some historians question whether his health deteriorated naturally or if his treatment under house arrest, isolated from colleagues and friends, forbidden to publish, and constantly monitored, contributed to his decline. Even more suspiciously, the Church banned any public funeral or monument for Galileo. His remains were hidden away in a small room next to the novices' chapel at the Basilica of Santa Croce in Florence. It wasn't until 95 years later that he was finally given a proper tomb in the main part of the basilica. The Catholic Church didn't formally acknowledge its error in condemning Galileo until 1992, 350 years after his death. Pope John Paul II expressed regret for how the Galileo affair was handled, but for many, this came centuries too late. Number 4. Marie Curie, radiation's deadly embrace. What happens when your life's work literally kills you? Marie Curie, the pioneering physicist and chemist who discovered the elements radium and polonium, died on July 4, 1934, at the age of 66. The official cause of death, aplastic pernicious anemia, a condition directly caused by long-term exposure to radiation. During her research, Curie routinely handled radioactive materials without any protective gear. She carried test tubes of radioactive isotopes in her pocket and stored them in her desk drawer. She reportedly remarked on the beautiful blue-green light that the substances gave off in the dark, not realizing that the glow was slowly destroying her cells. But here's the truly unsettling part. Curie's research notebooks remain so radioactive that they're kept in lead-lined boxes. Anyone who wants to view them today must wear protective clothing. Her body, too, is interred in a lead-lined coffin because her remains are still dangerously radioactive. Some have questioned whether Curie truly understood the dangers of radiation or if the scientific establishment of her time deliberately downplayed these risks. After all, radium was being marketed as a health miracle in everything from toothpaste to drinking water. Was Curie a victim of corporate interests that didn't want the public to know the truth about radiation? What makes her death more poignant is that Curie remains the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different scientific fields, physics and chemistry. Her daughter, Irene Joliot Curie, would later also die from radiation-induced leukemia, creating a tragic legacy for this brilliant family. Number 3. Nikola Tesla, The Vanishing Papers. Did someone want the mad scientist silenced forever? Nikola Tesla, the eccentric genius whose inventions include alternating current electricity supply systems, the Tesla coil, and early wireless technology, was found dead in his New York City hotel room on January 7, 1943. He was 86 years old and living in relative poverty despite his world-changing contributions. The medical examiner determined that Tesla died from coronary thrombosis. Natural causes, right? Maybe not. Within hours of his death, the FBI ordered the Office of Alien Property to seize all of Tesla's papers and possessions from his hotel room. The official reason was concern that Tesla's research, particularly his work on a death ray or particle beam weapon, might fall into enemy hands during World War II. But here's where the plot thickens. When Tesla's nephew, Sava Kosanovic, was finally allowed to access some of his uncle's effects, he claimed that several of Tesla's most important papers were missing. These allegedly included plans for advanced weapons systems and a revolutionary method of wireless energy transmission that could provide free electricity to the entire world. Some conspiracy theorists suggest that Tesla was eliminated because his free energy concepts threatened powerful business interests, particularly those of his former employer and rival, Thomas Edison, and Edison's financial backer, J.P. Morgan. Others believe that the U.S. government feared Tesla's technology might be too dangerous or disruptive. Adding to the mystery, Tesla had claimed in his later years to have invented a dynamic theory of gravity and to have discovered a way to harness cosmic rays. Were these just the delusions of an aging mind, or did Tesla take revolutionary secrets to his grave? The truth remains locked away, possibly in still classified government archives. Number 2. Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist who blew up. Can a brilliant scientist also be too dangerous to live? Jack Parsons was no ordinary researcher. By day, he was one of the founding fathers of rocket science and a co-founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. By night, he was an occultist who performed rituals with L. Ron Hubbard, the future founder of Scientology, and followed the teachings of infamous British mystic Aleister Crowley. On June 17, 1952, Parsons died in an explosion in his home laboratory in Pasadena, California. He was just 37 years old. The official explanation was that Parsons accidentally dropped a vial of highly volatile fulminate of mercury, triggering the fatal blast. But many who knew him questioned this explanation. Parsons was meticulous with explosives. It was literally his area of expertise. How could such an experienced chemist make such a basic mistake? And why was he working with fulminate of mercury anyway, when it wasn't related to any of his known research at the time? The timing raised eyebrows too. The explosion occurred just as Parsons was preparing to leave for Mexico to set up a new explosives factory. He had also recently testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee during the McCarthy communist witch hunts, though he wasn't charged with anything. Some theories suggest that Parsons was murdered by either government agents who feared his political leanings and occult practices, or by industrial competitors who wanted his rocket patents. Others believe his death was connected to his involvement with Hubbard, with whom he had a falling out after Hubbard allegedly stole his money and ran off with his girlfriend. Whatever the truth, the combination of rocketry, government contracts, occult practices, and Cold War paranoia makes Parsons' death one of the most bizarre and suspicious in scientific history. Number 1. David Kelly, the weapons expert who knew too much. Could telling the truth be a death sentence? Dr. David Kelly was no ordinary scientist. As a biological warfare expert working for the British Ministry of Defense and as a United Nations weapons inspector in Iraq, Kelly had unique insights into Saddam Hussein's alleged weapons of mass destruction, the very justification for the Iraq War. On July 17, 2003, Kelly was found dead in a wooded area near his home in Oxfordshire, England. His left wrist was slashed, and he had apparently taken an overdose of painkillers. The official ruling, suicide. But here's what makes many people skeptical. Just days before his death, Kelly had been thrust into the public spotlight after being identified as the source for a BBC News report questioning the British government's claims about Iraq's weapons capabilities. Specifically, he had told journalists that intelligence reports had been sexed up to make the case for war more compelling. After being publicly named, Kelly was subjected to intense questioning by a parliamentary committee on July 15th. 2 days later, he was dead. The circumstances surrounding his death raised numerous red flags. The knife found at the scene had no fingerprints on it, not even Kelly's. The ulnar artery in his wrist that was cut is notoriously difficult to use for suicide because it often contracts when cut, limiting blood loss. Paramedics noted there wasn't enough blood at the scene to suggest he had bled to death. And several medical professionals pointed out that the number of painkillers in his system wasn't enough to be fatal. Perhaps most disturbing, Kelly had no history of depression or mental illness. In fact, he had emailed colleagues on the very day of his death, mentioning plans for the future and saying he was looking forward to returning to Iraq. The Hutton inquiry established to investigate Kelly's death concluded it was suicide. But unusually, the medical records and photos related to Kelly's death were sealed for 70 years, far longer than the standard 30 years for such cases. Was David Kelly silenced because he knew too much about the false pretenses for a major war? We may not know the full truth until 2073, when the sealed records are finally opened, if they haven't been lost by then. Are some scientific discoveries too dangerous for the world? Or are some scientists simply victims of their own brilliance in a world that wasn't ready for them? As we've seen with these 6 remarkable minds, the line between breakthrough and breakdown can be perilously thin. When a scientist pushes the boundaries of knowledge, are they also pushing their luck?